What I have here is what I can only assume is going to be my dream laptop. It's a Thinkpad Z13. There's very few reviews of this online, so I decided to do one when I got it. It's basically meant to compete with the MacBook Pro. From Windows standpoint, it's going to compete with the Dell XPS, and in my opinion, it's a lot better because it uses AMD, so it's going to be better on power. It's going to also have viable integrated graphics, and it has now USB 4. It's expensive, but yeah, you're basically paying what you get for. This is a flagship, expensive laptop from Lenovo, what I would call their ThinkPad flagship right now, at least in terms of ultra portables. So I'm going to unbox it here and do a user review just so you guys can see what I think of it and whether it's for you. Again, this is a pretty expensive laptop. $2,500 I think is the intro price now, Canadian. You can get it for a little bit cheaper. I paid 2,000 Canadian on sale, which I think I actually paid about 1,900 Canadian, which is still very expensive. But if you compare it to a MacBook Pro or a Dell XPS, it's the same price, if not cheaper. So I consider this, hopefully this is my dream PC right here, my dream laptop. So here's the Lenovo brick, a tiny little guy, 65 watts, USB-C. They actually make good chargers, but you can use anything. Like I have several. I have a couple 100-watt chargers in my house. I have the one from the Steam Deck. So this is actually big for me. I probably will plug this into a wall somewhere in my house and just leave it, to be honest. And when I go out and about, I'll just take a small USB-C cable with a 65 watt power brick. Get a look at it. So nice. This is some kind of like recycled bamboo or something. They had the leather, fake or vegan leather option, but it was substantially more expensive to get it with the specs I wanted, and it didn't ship at a reasonable time, which is kind of dumb. So it's got some papery stuff here rather than plastic. Yeah. Look at that. That's how a laptop should be. You know, for my purposes, ThinkPad. So yeah, they have the vegan leatherette, or leather, whatever you want to call it, top, which looks really nice. It's like a nice brown leather, but for one, it would have shipped quite a bit later, which wasn't the end of the world, but I actually realized I actually like the metal feel, personally. You can get like vinyl skins from D-Brand. There is not one for this, but you could probably cut it or something, but I kind of like this. It's going to be slightly more prone to scratching, but the leather would also be prone to damage. But yeah, so have a look at that. Quite skinny. So this is around the same thickness as my ThinkBook 13S that I have a video on, which I don't have anymore. I sold it. Very, very portable. This is a 13-inch laptop, 13.3-inch laptop. We'll compare it to the Razer here, which is 14. So weight-wise, the Razer is heavier, absolutely. This is certainly not a light laptop. I would say, I can bring up the specs, but probably about 3.5 pounds. This is much more, closer to 5, maybe even 6. But this is quite a bit smaller, you can see there. So the aspect ratio is 16 by 10 versus 16 by 9, which is really nice. So you get a taller display. And you sacrifice a little bit of width, but that's fine. Thickness wise, the Razer is one of the thinner gaming machines, so it's thinner than that, absolutely. Even so, I would say it's not as thin as, it's about the same thickness as a MacBook Pro. Slightly thicker than a MacBook Air. It's about a MacBook Pro size. But the initial feeling is really, really nice. So if I'm, this does matter to people. It may not seem like it, but picking up your laptop when you have a portable laptop like this, it's nice to have something that feels really good. And this is a really nice constructed laptop. Ventilation here, speakers on the bottom there. I will open this up and look inside and show you guys the lack of upgrades, but that's fine. Really, really nice. So this is by far the most expensive non-dedicated graphics laptop I've ever bought, but the specs are quite impressive. So this is the highest one they have. They have a 6850U, which is pretty much the best mobile that you can get that's a U branded from AMD right now. But this one here is a 6860Z, which technically runs about the same speed and everything. But I think what it is, it's just like the cream of the crop for binning and that. So it's their best of the 6850 they put in this here. So that's the specs there. This one has 32 gigabytes of RAM, which is essential for me. This is why I did this. Again, if the Razer had 32, I would have never gone down this, but it doesn't. So this is 32 gigabytes, and this one has the best screen option. It has a OLED screen, 2.8K, whatever that means. OLED screen. It's based on the slightly higher aspect ratio rather than 16:9. But I've never had an OLED screen laptop. I'm sure it's going to be beautiful. You know, I love my Vita as an OLED. It's quite beautiful, so I'm sure this will be nice. But the initial impressions here, before I do anything, it looks really, really nice. This is the top spec model. Again, you can spec it down quite a bit. You're always going to get an AMD processor, which is good. So you're going to get a lot of power there. You get these ugly badges, which I'll slowly take off if I can. Track point, which is really nice for some people. I don't use it that much, but I'm sure it's fine. I appreciate them. Very little for I/O. So it has one USB-C here, one USB-C there, and a headphone jack. Now you may think, oh my God, that is terrible, especially on an AMD laptop, which doesn't have Thunderbolt. Surprise, this has USB 4 capabilities on both of them, and they're not cheap USB 4, they're USB 4 at 40 gigabit per second, which is the same as Thunderbolt 4. So consider this the same as Thunderbolt 4. So I've actually already ordered myself a dock that is USB 4 and Thunderbolt 4 compatible, which supports I think it supports 3 4K displays. This can support, the laptop itself can support 2 4K displays at 60 hertz and the built-in display going at the same time. So you can have 3 displays going at once on this laptop, which is great. So you can do it that way, or you can do it via powered hub. So again, USB-C 4, if you don't know what this means, it's the same as Thunderbolt 4. If you don't know what that means, basically rather than a standard USB 4 or USB 3, you can plug it in and you get fast transfer speeds. It's great. You know, you can hook up a NVMe SSD and get really good speeds. This one here, you get a lot of power over it, power delivery, but you also can move a lot of data over that cable. So you can have display coming out of it. So you can have your 2 4K displays coming out of it. You can have Ethernet going into this. You can have hard drives hooked up. You can have all kinds of stuff. And as long as you don't exceed that 40 gigabit and 40 gigabit, so total 80 gigabytes, 8 gigabits, not gigabytes, you're laughing, which means you can do a lot with it. With a normal USB-C, you just can't get to that level. Like if you have something like these here, I have these little USB-C things, and these are fine. You can hook up like an SD card and a couple of USB ports, but you couldn't move a display over this at 4K, two 4Ks, over just like a USB-C 3.0. It doesn't support that. So that's typically where AMD's been stuck. You buy into the AMD simply amazing processors for mobile devices, and you're completely screwed out of Thunderbolt. And these Mac users and Intel users get that. But now we have USB 4 with very little travel. And it feels nice to type on, but it's not anything special. So that's that. This here, it's similar. They're low profile keys. And if you've used a ThinkBook, you'll know what I mean. It's lower than a ThinkPad, but they have the same layout and feel as a ThinkPad. This is a high-pitched kind of chiclet sound. Closer to a MacBook, I would say, MacBook Air or something like that. This one here, yeah, this feels like a ThinkPad with less travel, basically. Not even less travel, lower keys. So if you raise up the key slightly, it would feel exactly like a normal ThinkPad. So overall, really nice low-profile keyboard. This is the nicest low-profile keyboard I've ever used, right off the bat. Nice feel to it. It feels really, really nice. It's not going to beat out the full ThinkPad keyboards, but it's better than anything else I've used so far for low profile. So really, really nice. It does have the track point here. Some people like that. This doesn't have any physical buttons. So the Razer has a terrible trackpad. I don't know why people praise it. It's an awful trackpad. It feels really bad to press the buttons, and it's just not a nice trackpad. I'm sorry. Coming even from the G14, was a way better trackpad. This thing is awful. That's the worst part of this whole laptop. This one here doesn't have any buttons. So what it does is it has a motor in it that's going to simulate kind of like a rumble controller, haptic on a PS5 controller. When you press the buttons and it vibrates to simulate things. This is the same. So you're not actually pressing anything, but when you press down, it'll give you a little feedback. I haven't touched it, but this is what I've read online. So you can do it up here, and you can use the track point, or you can use it like a standard trackpad. So the first thing I notice right here is that beautiful display. Let's see if it's maxed out. Yes, it is. So this is the OLED display, like I said, with 2.8K, whatever that means. But it's a 19 by 10 aspect ratio, so really, really nice aspect ratio. But look at those viewing angles, right? Like just absolutely gorgeous. It looks perfect from really any angle. To my eyes, the same. But that's probably what I'm seeing right there. It's close. I mean, it's a camera. It's hard to tell. Very beautiful colors. Lots and lots of contrast. Vibrant. This one here, not as nice, but it's fine. Razer here. The Razer has a really good screen. It's a high refresh rate screen as well. And it also is really nice compared to even the G14 that I had. But right off the bat, it's going to be hard to tell on camera, but this wins right off the bat. There's more contrast. It's almost like it's HDR, and this is just a generic lo-fi grill. Okay, so we'll take this all the way to max. So that's like a high bass, I would say, that little popping sound. There we go. Beautiful sound on this here. Really, really nice. Yeah, I mean, it's a landslide victory for the Lenovo. The Razer, it's not bad, I would say, but it's pretty hollow. So it's fine. Here's something that you might compare to. I'll just use my iPad real quick. People just know how iPads sound, so we'll go there. So here's my iPad, which is amazing for a little tablet, but so there's a couple things to consider here that I kind of touched on briefly. This is not a physical trackpad. So this over here on the Razer, it clicks and you can physically feel it clicking when you do so. On this here, it's a little like gyro motor apparently. So like when the computer's off, there's no click. It doesn't actually do anything. It's kind of like the old iPhone 8s in that when they had the little thumb thing. It didn't actually work when it was on, when it was off. So, but it feels really, really nice, whatever it's doing. So that feels nice. The trackpad feels wonderful. It is a massive upgrade from the Razer. Nice and smooth. Very, very, very accurate. Lenovo makes great trackpads. I find Lenovo and Asus make really good trackpads, to be honest. Kind of like Apple. Okay, so the screws come up pretty nice. They're just a Phillips head. Feels like they're probably... there's a washer on the back, so they don't just come out, at least that one. Yeah, so there's probably a washer on them. Doesn't look like they're going to actually come out, which is good. I prefer that. Okay. Came off quite easily. It says it's recycled aluminum. Feels like plastic, but I guess it's recycled aluminum. I don't know. Maybe it's just coated. But it's super light. These are where the speakers come out. Okay. So yeah, let's have a look. So pretty big battery, size of the whole thing. I believe it's a 4305 milliamp battery. Can't remember what the watt hour is on it, but yeah, it'll be in the specs. I'll put it up. Something there. Speakers there, down firing, nothing special, but they sound great, so they are good speakers. I believe they're 4 watts per speaker, and so despite being small, they're great. They're way better than the Razer. There's something here. Looks like you can put a SSD in or something. I'm not sure what that is, or a Wi-Fi card. Not actually sure. It's the form factor of an SSD, which is interesting. You have The two fans here. This is a vapor chamber, I understand, so it looks a little different. You're not going to want to take it off and repaste it or anything like that because doesn't make sense. And Wi-Fi here. This is where the SSD is under there. So you can see the FPS in the top corner there. We're at 35. Let me just kill this guy. Okay, so setting wise, let's see, we're at turn it down a bit. So 1280 by 800, which is native resolution, but native aspect ratio, but low resolution. I turned down some of the settings, nothing low, but medium across there. Very high draw distance. I don't like to have that low because then you can't see stuff when you're sailing. I turned off some of this stuff. It doesn't do much, but I just don't like it. So pretty much medium settings with high for draw distance and level of detail. So it actually looks pretty good. It just has resolution down a bit. And yep, so we're at 30 FPS more or less most of the time. 26 at some times. Then the yeah, so that's horrible. You can see there we're at like 12 FPS. And the interesting thing about Valheim is that, even though the graphics, they're not super high, like you can turn a lot of these things down. It doesn't affect the quality of the game. I play this on my Steam Deck and it looks great. So you can turn a lot of this stuff down to like medium, even lower than medium, to be honest. You don't need any of this stuff. Vegetation quality is a decent one to set up. You don't want to get that vegetation quality too low because you lose all the underfoliage. So right there I have vegetation quality at medium, draw distance and level of detail at high, and everything else on low. And this game looks fine. Like when I throw it on my desktop, it doesn't look that much better. So I mean, right now we're at 39 to 40 FPS, which is incredibly playable for this game. This is the 1200p resolution that Forza worked with, and here we're getting 12 FPS. This game is very demanding on GPU, very, very demanding. It even blasts my like 3080. But 1200p resolution is, honestly, it's a bit too high. Okay, so let's go through some of the settings here. We'll see what it wants just as a default. So that's not the max resolution of the screen. The screen goes up to that's the native resolution of the screen, 2880 by 1800. So this screen is capable of the resolution, but there's no way that the graphics card can do it for this game. So we'll go back to what it recommends, which is 1920 by 1200. We'll see that. Frame rate max 30 to 60. It's a 60 hertz screen, so there's no point going above that even if we could. So we'll leave that all as kind of how it just kind of recommended it. Graphics, let's see. So apparently it wants low, medium, and low all the way down. So we'll give that a try and see how that looks. And this is just how the game came, so. From what I've seen, the game looks gorgeous on low anyways, so. And low with a OLED, beautiful OLED screen is going to look great anyways, so. Okay, so here we are in the game. That loaded really fast, obviously. Apparently I'm in a Porsche. I haven't played this game since I got my razer, so we're basically testing the same spot. So we can see here the FPS. Oh, there was a big hitch there. So we're at, everything's on relatively low, but in all honesty, the game looks pretty good. I mean, it doesn't look anywhere near as good as when it's on like Ultra, but this is an integrated graphics card, and you can see it looks quite nice. Wow, music playing. And we're getting 60 FPS more or less. It's dipping down a couple times here and there, but like it went down to 52 there, 54. But it's fine. I mean, we're sitting at above 50 FPS consistently, which is more than playable for a game like this. So let's actually increase the settings if it even lets us. Might be a VRAM limitation where it just won't let us go any higher, but we'll see. We'll leave the video for now. We'll just do graphics. Let's go medium presets. I highly doubt this is going to work well, but we'll just see. And we'll leave it on medium and see. We'll leave the resolution as it is, and we'll see what medium looks like. There we go. So it looks like we're sitting at, well, we're actually at 45 FPS, 48. There's a little bit of pitching here and there. It'll struggle here, in my opinion, because of VRAM. This device, it just doesn't have enough VRAM for, parts like this. So you can see there we're getting high FPS, but we're getting a lot of pitching where the lows drop down quite a bit. The software isn't even catching it up here. It's too quick. Make it load some stuff. Okay, so I'm going to turn it down a little bit so you can hear the fan. The fan is actually very quiet, to be honest. We'll just keep driving for now. In terms of laptop temperature, it's actually very, very low. Nothing up here is uncomfortable. There's a heat here on this, whatever this is here, this bezel, that you can definitely feel heat there where the exhaust is probably coming out. But yeah, the keys themselves are not hot, so that feels pretty good. Yeah, so no issues there. Looks like the CPU is being blasted a fair bit. GPU is at 100%. So let's check our temps real quick here. And we'll see where we're at. So our core temperature, you can see there, we did hit 100 degrees very briefly, so we must have thermal throttled at some point. We're at 86 and 77 across. These are just basically all the readings. So we're sitting right around, I'd say, 86 or so, 75 to 86, which is totally fine. That these CPUs can easily handle that. That's no problem. 100 isn't damaging it, but it is hot. So that's where it thermal throttles right there. It doesn't like that. So it'll thermal throttle. Let's go down to the GPU. GPU temperature is 84. It got up to 101, but even though it's being blasted, it's just not that hot. So it's definitely getting warm playing this game. You don't feel it at all, like whatsoever on the keyboard. I have no thermal pad under this. It's just kind of sitting. The bottom's pretty warm. The bottom definitely feels pretty warm, the exhaust coming out. So if you prop this up, you get better temperatures, obviously. Future Bow here. I've been using this laptop now for 2 weeks, and I've been loving it. I have a USB 4 hub that's right there that I will do a video on. I have a video on that I'm going to release. And I just hook it up to here, and I have access to 4 SSDs, an NVMe drive inside, 2 hard disks, dual monitor, Ethernet, which I don't use, but you can use Ethernet if you want, all through one port, and I have a second port. So if I want to hook up another monitor, I can do that. It's been incredible. USB 4 is amazing. This is why people love Thunderbolt 4. There's benefits to it. You can basically turn your laptop into a desktop at that point. But overall, I've been loving this laptop. It is incredible to type on and incredible to interface with the trackpad and the track point. It's just really, it's a treat. Every time I pull it out, I feel like doing work. I feel great about it. It's super portable. It weighs nothing, sub 3 pounds. It's a little bit heavier than some, but it's built, the build quality reflects the weight. It feels nice and it feels very sturdy. If you've handled MacBook Pros, you know what I'm talking about. It feels like a MacBook Pro. You can see the face unlock there. It just unlocked when I opened it. Automatically. It has a fingerprint reader you can use if you want, but I just use Windows Hello Face Unlock. Sound is really, really nice. The screen is just incredible. If you can get the 1200p screen, you're going to like it. It's going to be really, really nice. And you'll get better battery life from what I've been reading on forums. I've been exchanging with some people. I get about, I'd say 6 to 8 hours of kind of mixed use on this. If I'm using it heavily, I make it 4 or 5. And if I'm using it quite light, just browsing forums, I get 8 hours, even 9. Lots of settings you can tweak in the Lenovo. You can turn the battery, you can turn performance mode off. There's all kinds of things you can do in here to change the performance, but I'd say it's about an 8 to 9 hour laptop. So it's an all-day laptop, no problem. If you're doing all kinds of stuff on it, that's going to drop down, obviously. The OLED does demand more battery than the IPS panel. So if that's a huge concern for you, you could get the IPS, but I wouldn't sacrifice this screen. It's beautiful. Gaming performance has been nice. I've been playing nothing super heavy, but like Valheim, played some other games, and they play really, really nice on this. It doesn't get super hot. It's basically performing similar to the Steam Deck, a little bit better because of the advanced cooling, but similar. So if you use the Steam Deck, you know what to expect on that. but you know, the screen is beautiful. It's really, really nice. So I was, you know, kind of worried about the track point and trackpad, you know, being that haptic thing, but it's such a nice trackpad. You'll go online, you'll see people rip on this trackpad before they've used it. I'm talking to you ThinkPad enthusiasts, because I'm a ThinkPad enthusiast. Once you use this trackpad, you will be sold. It is incredible to use. The track point, however, without having physical buttons, I can understand where people are coming from there. The track point is nice, but without the two buttons, it doesn't feel the same as using like an older ThinkPad. So I do understand the difference there. If you're not a track point person, it doesn't matter. Who cares then? You're going to love this laptop. The trackpad is amazing. Keyboard is amazing. Super quiet, super light. USB 4, you know, you're worried about, oh, it only has 2 ports. It doesn't matter. They're USB 4 ports. So you have access to docks, 2 of them if you really wanted, and you can have near endless I/O. So overall, I would recommend this laptop. However, it is very expensive. Like I said, it's, you know, you're going to be starting at 2,000 Canadian. If you can get it on a good sale, maybe 2,000 for the top model, which is what I paid. So, you know, 1,500 American up to probably 2,300 American. So a lot of money. But if you want the best experience, people who buy MacBook Pros know what I'm talking about. You know, you pay more for a MacBook Pro and you're paying for that quality, the build quality and the experience of using the laptop. And this is basically a Windows version of a MacBook Pro. There's 0 compromises on this laptop. It is very, very nice. It's a joy to pull out. When I pull it out and I want to do work on it, I'm happy to do work on it. So overall, I would recommend it if you're looking for a premium item. If you're not looking for a premium item that's super expensive, you know, and you want something similar to this, you know, even Lenovo offers like the T14 that goes on sale quite a bit. It's a tiny bit bigger, and you can get it with like 32 gigabytes of RAM and the same processor, more or less, the 6850U processor. So you can go that route. If you don't need 32 gigabytes of RAM and, you know, screen isn't the biggest thing, they offer even ThinkBooks. ThinkBooks only go up to 16 gigabytes of RAM, but you get the modern processor. So you'll get very similar performance overall. Not exact, but very similar. But yeah, if you're looking for an AMD ultra portable laptop with USB 4, no compromises on the screen, build quality, audio, just everything. It's just an absolute killer laptop, but you're going to be paying for it. But you're not going to regret your purchase once you actually spend that money if it's within your budget. It's really, really nice. So overall, I do recommend it. I recommend it if you can afford it. Or you can be like me and just find a way to justify affording it, whether you can or not, and just don't think about it.